Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Off the Chain. Today I'm absolutely thrilled to have my friend STEM Queen, aka Katherine Boiciuc. Welcome.
Thank you.
Great to have you here.
Great to be here. It's actually a really beautiful space.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's good energy. I was just saying we usually record in a room over there, but we got rolled this time. But this one's just fine, and we'll have a great outcome either way.
Either that, or we'll just go to the South Melbourne market and give up and bring you with us. Maybe
there's many bars that we can go to as well. We'd have meetings. I'm sure we'd end up doing that. It's great to be in person again. Obviously, we've spoken many times over the internet and on the telephone, but I love the opportunities to sort of keep connecting in person with all my friends and network that I've made over time. So I'd love for you to sort of give us a bit of a breakdown on, as far back as you'd like to go, sort of give people paint a bit of a picture on what makes you you, and then we'll sort of just let the conversation go.
Sure. I have spent, the last couple of decades, don't look it up, because that's weird, it's rude. Just, being a global technology exec. And, the thing is, when you work with technology, you understand very quickly how to build and create value in the future. And it really got me addicted in the art of practicing futurism and how to, and so, one of the delightful parts of my time when I was at Telstra was having the luxury of going to the Institute of the Future in Palo Alto and becoming an accredited futurist. And then it suddenly doesn't seem like, how are these people making billion-dollar companies using technology and a bit of code and a vision and a purpose statement and galvanizing society to act differently. Like, how do they do that? So I've spent the last 5 years as a futurist, working as a consultant. Now have founded my own Web3 agency, the Web3 Effect, and now spend my time, helping other people kind of unlock that vision of what they want to build in the future, but also unlock the capability of Web3 as well as Web2. Yeah. Because we're undertaking this extreme transition at the moment, and there's not many of us that really understand how to help people and organisations navigate away from being limited from Web 2 and actually being able to step into Web 3 and all of the technology that's available now that's really disrupting, whether it be AR or AI or VR, we are in a time where anyone can do anything.
Totally.
And you don't have to know the hard code behind it.
For sure. No, that's cool. How did you find your way into technology?
I'm the daughter of an army sergeant and a CEO.
Okay.
And as a result, what it meant growing up, our family was often separated, For sure. Mum would be in Taiwan, Dad would be up at Pucka, for those of you that know Pucka Panyal in Australia. And so we used technology to keep connected as a family.
Right. That's cool.
I was faxing and MSN chatting my homework, and I think it just created this set of habits that I was an early adopter, always, because who wants to send homework by fax?
No.
No one does. And so I think that's where my joy of connection and celebrating what could be done differently with technology came from. And then, I just, came back from my gap year at 18 and just went, I better go work at a technology company. And
Nice.
back then Telstra wasn't a technology company, it was a telco. Yeah. But the internet was the next big thing.
Sure.
And then what a time to join technology in a boom, right?
No, that's so cool. That's so cool. What throughout your time, I guess it doesn't really matter what time period, but where did you just explained where you would have gotten your leadership skills from, so that's pretty obvious, your DNA. But what did you learn along your way throughout that period of your career that you've been able to apply more recently as a futurist, and then specifically in Web3, because you've to your point, you have helped a lot of people, and a lot of people speak extremely highly of you in that sense that you have been so openly, helping people without any expectation.
I'm a big believer in your actions speak louder than your words.
Totally.
And we are living in a time where we have grown up as a society believing that everything that we read is true.
Yeah.
And that the way that we got information was through reading.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, our psychological contract with reading, whether it be on a screen or a mobile device or reading the paper, we actually still have a belief system that what we're reading is fact. But then if I was to tell you that 40% of what you read on a screen is synthetic,
that's probably
and
kind.
no human has touched it or written it,
Yeah.
that would surprise some people. Misinformation around the COVID vaccine. 96% of the misinformation on the COVID vaccine was generated from 8 AI bots. And then was replicated by the media, digital media and marketing funnels.
Pick up anything.
Correct. So, but people don't understand that that's where we're heading in terms of synthetic content. So for me, I think that we are living in a trust economy. It's all about relationships, and it's all about, I think I always remember the people that leaned into me when I was stepping into, when I stepped into leadership in technology, and I'm talking, this sounds ancient because it feels like last century, but late 90s.
It was last century.
Stop it. Less than 7% of leadership roles were held by women in Australia.
Yeah.
And my mum was one of those 7%.
Yeah, for sure.
So I always believed that I would be an executive and be a leader, but I also had a role model close to home.
Sure.
So I feel like that it's kind of my duty of care to do the same for the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. And I think that that's true whether it's traditional technology or Web2 technology or if it's Web3 technology. And if anything, the reason why I stepped into Web3 is because I think we have a chance to reset the equity and inclusion agenda and the diversity of Web3 talent. Because we've gatekept it for so long. It's so out of whack.
It's crazy.
In Web 2. But in Web 3, you don't have to be technical. And you can build a $20 million Web 3 business.
I love that. I think that's certainly once I understood the potential of the technology and having music, business and sport background, that was this is it. This is it.
Yeah,
it's perfect match. And and as I dove in, I was more of a spectator of the Web 2, I guess let's call it a movement or, climb. But on all accounts from people that I trust and follow, it was very much a boys' club and very much developer-driven or let's call it nerd-driven, right? Whereas this time around, it's much more culture-driven, people-driven, and I think that suits exactly what you're saying because it is the perfect. It does have the perfect ingredients for us to be able to make it how we think it should, or how it should have been. Full stop. Whether it be diversity, any type of diversity, or just the right, the best people winning. Because if you look at the world in general, people have less of a chance to succeed just based on their different socioeconomic or demographic sort of situation where they're
which is the traditional way of working,
100%. Right? And now, because we're so much more conscious of it, or the people that have taken the first steps have always been conscious of it and now have a larger voice in the ability to affect it, we have this more even playing ground where these people that have always been as talented have the ability to sort of have a go.
Yeah, I think Web3, if you're creative and you have an ability to connect and you're willing to take the time to learn a new skill. And when I say learn a new skill, a weekend.
Yeah, totally.
Like to take a weekend to step into something new. You know, my daughter last weekend, she's 8 and she's been struggling to learn how to read. And we've been working on a lot of different techniques. And one of the techniques that was suggested to me is like, why don't you have her write her own book and publish it? And so, you know, we spent 6 hours together learning how to create a book on Canva, how to use artificial intelligence to write her story for her in voice to text, how to export that file into KDP, and she's now published it on Kindle.
Oh, that's so
and
good.
She's 8.
I love that.
So if an 8-year-old can publish a book using the technology we have today, I think that we all have this out-of-date perception of what technology is, and I think people have an outdated or a misconception around what is Web3 as well. But the reality is that Web3 is actually returning to the roots of the internet. Web 1 was when the internet was unsearchable and no one could find anything they wanted.
That's right.
And if it was really good, someone you trusted would tell you about it.
Yep.
And they would give you the long code and you'd type it in and then you'd log on and you'd order a DVD of a particular concert or whatever. But it was all about community. And then we lost that. We lost that with automation and productivity and technology being plugged into the platform plays.
It. Yeah.
Well, and, you know, 99% of the wealth is owned by the 1% of that platformed environment in Web 2. And what I love about Web 3 is that platformed environment, it's there, but it's completely democratized. So you can genuinely curate, this is what I want to use for search, this is what I want to use for art, this is what I want to use for media. Actually, I don't want to have any Discord community at all. I'm going to go a ghost commerce approach and just produce amazing music. And I'm going to make it available on the blockchain.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's exactly right, and it's what I've seen. I think it's getting better, but what I've seen, particularly when the echo chamber was unfathomable, was that people were so romantic about it had to be this way because this is the new way, and we had to do it like this. What they were missing was this is what will facilitate people's ability to combine what's available to them in a new way that has the democratization and makes it more in the hands of the creator to be able to continue to do this and make a living in a way that they wouldn't have been able to do before.
I think it's so, well, first of all, what I would say is the arts and music, there has not been a change to the model in a century.
Yeah, way too long.
And the equivalent use case and it was ripe for disruption. The fact that you have, through most of the 90s and 2000s, have music artists with #1 albums, platinum albums, homeless and unable to keep a roof over their head because they're clipping 90 cents on a single, and then have to pay tax on that and then have to, you know, pay their management on that. And so they're actually getting 15 cents. That is that's criminal, and I think artists in particular have been, you know, underpaid and under-respected for a really long time, and so I just feel like we're in a huge renaissance period. Totally. Like it's a huge rush of creativity and art. But, you know, if I see what's happening in insurance, if I see what's happening in legal, if I see what's happening in accounting, it's not just music and art that's going to be disrupted by Web3, and that's where I think the misconception.
It's just the lowest hanging fruit.
Correct, but But when you actually look at what's now happening, you know, I look at Slice Labs, you know, used artificial intelligence, machine learning, plugged it together into a layer, and insurance hasn't changed in 100 years. We all just sleep better at night when we pay the bill. Yeah. That's actually actually the experience.
That's right. They're selling fear.
That's actually the experience. Sleeping better at night is the experience. You're just paying thousands at the moment for it. But instead of filling out, you know, 50 forms, it's a 2-step process.
Yeah.
They do all of the work, and then they automatically process your claims and the money's back in your account in 16 seconds. No traditional insurance company can compete with that model.
No way, not even close. Yeah.
And so guess what happens when and what's interesting with someone like a Slice Labs is no one's heard of them. And the reason why no one's heard of them is because they're a ghostless white label insurance tech company, and companies like Airbnb are using Slice Labs technology to put products into market. Microsoft Cybersecurity is using Slice Labs to put embedded tech insurance into laptops.
Yeah, wow.
And they're launching products in 6 weeks, but no one's heard of Slice Labs. But overnight, they've turned on $800 million worth of product with Airbnb. That's what I mean about Web3.
Yeah.
It completely disregards, it doesn't just disrupt the old model. It actually just goes,
like it never
that
existed.
Model does not exist anymore.
Yeah.
And if I plug these tools in differently, because you don't have to rely on traditional capital, traditional venture capital, traditional finance markets, you genuinely, the gatekeeping or the people in a room deciding whether or not your idea has merit, that's gone.
Yeah.
That barrier to entry is gone. And to me, that's why relationships are so important now, because you're seeing the greatest impact come, like we're seeing thousands of people right now here gather in Melbourne for the tennis.
Yeah.
But we're also seeing thousands of Web3 people gather at the tennis because they're so excited to use the utility that their Australian Open, AO
NFT,
art ball,
yeah.
Right? And that's what I mean around we've barely scratched the surface.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, it's crazy to think where it's gonna go, and once people really start to understand, or at least have enough time to put real products together that are solving problems. I think that's what this next phase is gonna encompass, because people have had a considerable amount of time now to quietly work on things that are not hype related or anything to do with the bull market or short term economics. I was actually talking to Ben Simpson about this yesterday. We recorded an episode. It's about the picks and shovels.
Yeah.
The tools like the one you just mentioned, which are going to completely change the game and once again bring better value to the consumer, and allow for, whether it's a company like Airbnb or an artist or a musician, to get even closer to the people that they're transacting with, and everyone else needs to find a way to provide value or they're no longer relevant.
Correct.
Which is how it should be.
Yeah, you don't know. There's no longer 15 people between you and the customer taking a slice of your income.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that means all of that energy and effort that was spent being productive, maintaining the status quo, is now reorientated into creation, into connection, into impact. And I think that's why, you're right. I get a lot of phone calls from a lot of brands and a lot of agencies, but they're wanting to step into the future of tech, experience it, and they're trying to navigate brand. They don't want their first entry into a new technology experience to be, a brand damaging event. And I think we have some incredible brands like Penfolds and the Australian Open just doing some really amazing things. Collective Shift with their, $1.5 million dollar announcement.
Yeah.
We have Magic Eden, Alluvium. We have $1 billion unicorns in Australia.
Yeah.
And I would say 7 out of 10 executives in my traditional coaching business would not even know those names.
No way. They definitely wouldn't.
And so that's why I just want everyone to wake up. My first article this year was like, hi, if you're a chief marketing officer, please pay attention. Artificial intelligence has been turned on. And I really, I just want CMOs to understand, the game has changed. Everything that you got in your degree like it's old. It's done. And I did it deliberately, like to just jolt people. And now I'm hosting a number of chief marketing officers at the Australian Open next week, and to sit down and have a conversation about, okay, how do I start to figure out how to touch and play and get and understand, what do you mean that there's an artificial intelligence like Canva, but it creates TikTok videos? I have never heard of that. Which, who needs more TikTok, to be honest, well, now that I think about it. But the reality is we're in this age of creation, which means that media is going to be the currency.
And the consumption's never been so high as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so people can either ignore it, they can understand or get frustrated why their market share is declining.
Oh, exactly, because they're ignoring it.
Or they can start to participate and actually, why not document? I'm waiting for the first Australian Web3 generated documentary. Like, we have some of the best documentary makers in the world.
That's a cool story.
We have some of the largest Web3 technology companies in the world.
Especially if you look in the
that are the equivalent and are the equivalent of a Tesla, an OpenAI, a Twitter takeover. Like, why don't we have camera crews following these founders around and seeing what it's like to be building the future of the internet?
Or maybe now with the tennis doco out, the AO can get that ball moving into a Web3 theme one by whoever made the tennis documentary.
I think so. I think that's absolutely the next step. It's really just bloody exciting times.
No, totally. Speaking of exciting times, we've got you speaking at our event in March. Now, I'm backlogged with these episodes, so I don't know whether this is going to come out. It'll definitely come out before March, but we're really, really excited to roll that out. And it'll be 13 months since the first one, which you spoke at as well, which is your first Web3 speaking gig, was it? It was my first, what I would say, in-person Web3 event. COVID. That wasn't 100 people in a room. Like, I don't mean like a Web3 meetup. I mean like a couple of thousand people. Oh, what the fuck event? Yeah.
Are like,
yeah.
And I think it was our first event out of lockdown in Melbourne, which made it super special.
It was 3 days after the venue cap was lifted.
Yeah.
So it was perfect timing for us.
It was a bit hectic.
No, for sure. We're gonna take that up a couple of notches this time. I think even higher. So we're looking forward to that. On that point, the reason why I brought that up was, you have an advantage from sort of people that are more junior and maybe not as confident or not as much experience, in the sense of the reason I came across you, because you got involved in apocalyptic, I should know that word, apocalyptic apes, and we're running spaces literally every night. And that's how I heard you talking. I was like, I don't know this person, but I need her to speak at our event because of how well you spoke and how much you knew. What could somebody learn today, other than, and it might just be the point around networking, what could they learn today about the easiest and most practical way of getting involved with Web3 in any capacity?
I think there's a couple of things. I have the luxury to speak to right before Christmas the latest cohort of graduates from Chief Executive Women Australia.
Oh, cool.
And we spent an afternoon on Web3, and these are the smartest lawyers, marketers, accountants you can know. And I said, this what we're doing right now. This is what you need to be doing. Yeah. It's being curious. It's asking questions. It's listening to podcasts. So I'm hoping that you probably stumbled across, the chain part of Off the Chain, and just gone, oh, this is a blockchain and Web3 podcast. Okay, I should listen, and then just start adding thought leaders that you really respond to.
Yeah.
Add their LinkedIn, add their Twitter, turn your notifications on. And it's those small 1% decisions that start to change the feed of information that you're getting.
For sure. People wouldn't believe, I don't believe the types of people that I know you and I have been able to get in touch with through this, through these channels, whether it be Twitter, Discord, LinkedIn, etc., email, how responsive these multi-millionaires, or even the money doesn't matter, but the people with these ridiculous size followings and have been so successful are often so responsive. I think more so now because the bull market was crazy. There's no way they were managing their Twitter DMs during that period. But like, people need to understand that if they put in those reps and they're active enough and they have a profile that looks like they're actually contributing, people will take time when they have the time to actually respond, and they may be able to strike up a relationship or a conversation like this, Same with like what you said is perfect. Like, I've always said, why go to an event of any type if you're not going to go and speak to people? And I'm the last person that'll walk into a cold room and start...
Two introverts on a podcast right now. The irony is not lost on me.
Oh, man.
Web3 brought the introverts out.
It's crazy. And I've spent 20 years performing as well. It's like, in my element, I'm the biggest extrovert, and then extrovert, and then just most of the time I'm like, just let me sit on the couch in the corner, I'm good.
It's so true. It's so true. But here's the thing. I think there's a couple of things. I just don't think people, like, this is not about investing your money. If that's what you think a conversation about Web3 is about, I just want you to completely, like, put your wallet away. If all you do is attend events, listen to spaces, listen to podcasts,
reply to
use
threads.
Something like, but even just use an aggregator like Flipboard, the app, and have it create a feed of information on blockchain, NFTs, Web3, AI, AR, future of tech. And every Sunday for an hour, just open up Flipboard and see what has that technology aggregated about all of the news and all of the latest advancements on that particular area.
Love that.
And 1 hour a week, that's your little mini study of bettering your understanding around what is the future of tech going to look like for what I do. Because every single job, from healthcare to education to governments, I talk about this all the time in my articles and when I share information from around the world. Japan, Docomoco, $4 billion investment, and have set up their own DAO so that can write their blockchain policy for Japan.
Wow.
It's already been announced. So I think what we're seeing, if you can park the noise on crypto and focus on Web3 technology and the infrastructure, and it's autonomous. It's 99.96% cleaner for the environment.
Yes.
It's actually cleaner than Web2 tech. It is completely democratized, and it allows people to fundamentally change the way they want to create impact. And so that, to me, is the most exciting thing, whether you're an educator or in medicine or an artist or a writer, or you're somebody like me who I just love connecting with incredible founders, and I love pushing the boundary. So if you think the future is here, I'm going to show you these 15 examples to reality check where you think the line is, so that you can actually make a more informed choice about how you want to invest your time, energy, and money.
Amazing. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. Thank you so much for joining. Time has absolutely flown. I've appreciated it. I'd love to do it again soon.
Sounds good.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for listening. Let us know what you thought. Cheers. I really hope you've been enjoying Off the Chain so far. No matter how you're consuming this content, please leave your feedback either through the content platform itself or find me on Twitter at offthechainweb3. Cheers for your support. Thanks a lot.